Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about my hybrid productivity system as a digital systems nerd. Hybrid productivity for me means combining the best of digital for kind of storage, retrieval and all the other good stuff that we know digital tools can do, and paper for the physical reminder that lives in my environment. I've realised that a physical reminder is the life hack for me. If there is not a reminder around me to do something or to think about something, I'm probably going to forget about it. And I've basically rearranged my entire life to work in this principle, and this paper planner is a major part of it. So in this video, I'll walk you through the digital components of my setup, my planner, and crucially how they talk to each other, which is through my review and planning process. So I'll start with digital and we'll go from there. So digital tools are better than my brain for many things, such as storing information, retrieving information, and connecting information. So in terms of my productivity setup, I have like 3 core tools that I use. The first is Google Calendar, the second is Todoist, and the third is Capacities, of course. So Google Calendar is self-explanatory, but I have a really strict rule with it, and that is only events that must happen at that time go on the calendar. Only tasks that must happen at that time go on the calendar. And this is because I don't want my calendar to be a source of decision making. I want it to be something I blindly have to follow. Most of my days are really flexible. I don't need that level of precision. Therefore, arbitrarily assigning tasks to a time confuses me and it doesn't work. So I only put things I absolutely must do at that time on the calendar. But that means I need a place to capture tasks that come up that don't need to be done at a certain time, but indeed still need to be done. And that's what I use Todoist for. I've got a super simple setup. I'm just using the inbox at the moment and some sections to make somewhat of a Kanban board. And I just put everything in there for my personal life. And then our capacities things live in our capacity systems. But I'm not going to go into that because they're not mine. I just put my tasks in there. And then speaking of capacities, it obviously plays a role in my productivity system as well. 3 things really. The first is holding my vision for this year as context for what I choose to do with my time and what tasks are important to me. Towards the end of last year, I started to develop this real picture of where I wanted to be at the end of this year. And I just did a classic yearly planning exercise to help me get there. And I opened up a page in Capacities called 2025, and I wrote down 4 areas of my life that I want to focus on. I wrote down why I wanted to focus on them. I wrote down the goals I had for that area, any action or preparation I would need before I could attack it, let's say, and then routines that would help me kind of work actions towards these goals, towards these areas into my everyday or my every week. And this point of routines is a secondary point that Capacities helps me with because it holds my routines. What do I mean by that? I had a huge realization last year that so much of my life, be it work or personal, is routine. And I don't mean that in the kind of boring daily drudgery sense. I mean that I'm always just doing sets of tasks together. So obviously most of my job is filming videos, and it's always film, edit and upload. And if I don't do one of those things, the rest of the tasks don't make sense. When I put something onto my website or Capacity's website, there's a set of tasks that I have to do together in order to achieve that. So routines are just sets of tasks that come together that recur regularly, but you can't really necessarily define when that is. It's just, hey, when you film a video, these are the things that you have to think about after in order to successfully upload something to YouTube. So what I did last year was I built this cool system in Fibery that helped me track all of my routines, but that was very digital. And of course, the context of this video is that I'm now using paper. So I just have a really simple set of lists and capacities, either in my personal space and my workspace, and that helps me with my task planning, which I'll get to later. But Capacities holds the routines, and many of them were derived from that vision setting process at the end of last year, and it's working very nicely. But more than that, Capacities is my knowledge base. Anything that I learn about goes in Capacities, and that includes things that I want to include in my days to improve my productivity or to give me different perspectives on things and to work them into my day. One such example was the 3x3x3 productivity method, which you'll hear about later. I saw that online somewhere, saved it to Capacities, and I went from there. Now, everything I've described so far lives in the planning, connecting, thinking layer of my systems, but it is different from the execution layer. It allows me to find what I need to find, when I need to find it, to connect bits of information to my goals or to give me new ideas, but it doesn't help the version of me that sat in my real life trying to do things, because it's all on a screen and I spend my whole day on a screen. I work remote, I've got online hobbies, and my screen is full of distractions. And there's all sorts I could do on here, meaning I just forget tasks if they're not in front of me. And I used to really get frustrated about this, thinking it was a discipline issue, but it's not. It's just, I guess, a memory issue. So I needed a system to help me address that. And that is when my digital system starts talking to paper. So I found my paper randomly on a trip to TK Maxx in January. It's an A4 spiral bound planner, and it's got a really simple layout. On one side is Monday to Thursday, the other side is Friday to Sunday, and there's a little space at the bottom for tasks, and there's also some extra space around like the date at the top. And now that I've been using it for months, like every day, I've noticed a few things and reasons why I think it's working for me. The first is that it is spiral bound. So it sits flat like this on my desk, like all the time. And if it's not on my desk, if I'm not there, it's downstairs in front of me. Like, it is always in my eye line. That alone is most of the reason why it works, but there's a couple of other reasons too. Next is that space at the top next to the date. That's where I write my goals for the week. So like all my intentions for work and my personal life. It's a built-in check-in for me. Every time I look at my planner, I also see the goals, and it keeps me on track. And I found it really successful. The second thing, and potentially a bit of an odd thing, is it doesn't bother with hours and minutes. I have such flexibility in my life that most of the time it does not matter if I do a task at 10 a.m. or 3 p.m. So in the same way that task blocking on a digital calendar makes no sense for me, it would also make no sense for me to carry this through to a physical planner because it's meaningless. Whereas this planner just gives me a box with a set amount of room, and that's where I can write my things for the day, and I can just get through it at some point. It doesn't have to be in order, but it's assigned roughly to a day. It doesn't bother with times. However, it remains constrained. Stefan, one of Capacities' co-founders, has completely rewired how I think about the world by thinking about constraints. And it makes so much sense, because in a digital tool like Todoist, I could make a list of like 100 things in my inbox or 100 things in a project called today, knowing that I will never ever get to those 100 things in one day. Whereas in the planner, I've only got a set amount of space to work in. And that means that I can't go crazy and schedule 20 things I won't get done, which means it's just inherently more realistic for me. And I really like that. And finally, handwriting is more intentional. It has that mind-hand connection. And honestly, what is a task if not the human intent to act? So I really like that. But a question then becomes, how do I know what to act on? And this is where the conversation between digital and paper through my planning and review practices comes in. I essentially have to take information from digital sources and write it into being by putting it into my planner. So, a massive part of life for me is reducing decision making, and I also know that much of my life is routine. So I can combine these two things, and I can set aside about 20 minutes at the start of a month to sit down here at my desk, open up my routine pages in Capacities, and write out in advance things that I know are going to happen. So every day I do 4 maintenance tasks at Capacities. A couple of times a week I do other tasks at Capacities. Like, there are things that I can predict. So I just write them all out in advance. I also check in with my calendar and add any appointments to the page with a little sticker, because I don't have that many appointments, so I really want to make it clear when I do. It's not just a normal day, there's something else happening. And of course, these are the days I have to kind of plan my tasks a little bit more precisely around. I still don't say, okay, at 10 I'll do this, at 11 I'll do this, at 12 I'll do this. It's more just fit everything that you want to do between the hours of 10 and 2, because 2:30 to 4:30 you're doing something else. It's that kind of thinking. So adding all of that at the start of the month, so that's daily, weekly and monthly repeated tasks, that gives me some scaffolding to work in. And then I have to decide what to do day to day. And I have a framework to help me with this so I don't get lost, and again, to reduce decision making. And the framework that I use is an adapted version of the 3x3x3 method, which I saw online. I'll show you the exact source that I found it from. And it says 3 repeated tasks, 3 little tasks, and 3 hours of project work. For me, I've adjusted it a little bit. I have 4 like repeated daily tasks, and then I do 1 full morning or 1 full afternoon on one of my ongoing projects, which again, this is information that I get from the Capacity systems. And then the 3 little things, they always come up like without fail. My job sits across like lots of different parts of the business, so things just come up, and that means there's not that many decisions to make around it either. But I make sure that I have things that fit each of those categories, because it means I'm doing maintenance, I'm doing the random little things that come up as just part of working with a team, and I'm progressing on my projects. I then just assign it to the best guess day. In the same way that I notice routines in like my actual work, like the things I'm doing in my work and my life, you also notice patterns with how you work and how that looks week to week. So I just build on that. If I'm not sure precisely when to do something, that goes in that overflow task sheet and I'll look at it later. So at this point, I've preloaded a bunch of tasks. I've used a framework to help me assign what tasks to do on the day. Sometimes I do this as like weekly planning, and other times it's just like day by day. But either way, it never really feels like too much work, which is surprising that I'm saying it out loud. And I think it's because so much of the kind of scaffolding is done beforehand. And all of this is living in the permanent physical reminder that is an open notebook on my desk. But I've made it slightly easier to distinguish whether I am working on the right things or not. And that's by highlighting what is done and what's been like moved on for whatever reason. When I complete a task, I highlight the task in purple. So because my planner is always in my peripheral vision, because I always have this purple highlighter, there's a very simple tell on whether or not I'm doing the right thing. And that is, can I see purple stripes in my eyeline? If I can't, it means I'm working on completely the wrong thing, or the day has changed so much that it makes sense I'm not working on the right thing, but it also means that whatever I've written down today needs attention because I'm not going to get to it. If I then move a task or it's delayed or whatever, I highlight it in pink. I don't know why I started doing that, to be honest, but it does work quite nicely because it shows me what's like processed and what's actually just not done yet. And this is incredible. Like if I'm not seeing stripes, something's wrong. And it's just such a simple indicator that I need to just take 5 minutes and like reset. But as I've said a few times now, if something is not in front of me, I forget it exists. So obviously most of my week is spent Monday to Thursday on this side, but the second it becomes Friday, anything undone or like unthought about on the other side just becomes dead information to me because I can't see it. So I actually moved my weekly work review to be a Friday morning, and this has been really helpful as well. Anything not done Monday to Thursday becomes my focus for Friday, or if it's not important today or there's other things to do, I schedule it next week, again on a best guess day. It also allows me to start thinking about what I want to do at the weekend, and I assign that to the weekend, meaning I'm more focused on Friday. And it also just generally frees up my headspace. It's not like, oh, how shall I end the week? It's very prescriptive. If things are not highlighted, pull them over and do it. And again, it works so nicely for me. And then at the end of the day, something I got in the habit of doing at the end of last year, which I really enjoy, is using my Capacities workspace and its daily note as a place for me to review what I actually got done that day. I could look at the stripes, look at what I've highlighted, but it doesn't say when it was done or like if there's anything that I learned from it. And I'm really keen on always like writing down what I learn and using it as a way to progress further. So I just created an adapted version of the 3x3x3 method as a template in my daily note, and I fill that in every day. So that's everything really. I have digital tools that help me store and connect information and vision and all of that. And then I pull from that each day into a paper planner, which I spend a little bit of time every month setting up by putting daily, weekly and monthly tasks that I know come up because I've identified that my life has a lot of routine aspects to it. Day to day, this reduces my decision making and allows me to get focused faster, and overall is helping me execute on tasks way better and also in a much happier way than I was before. Like my approach to work and everything has just completely changed, and I think it's because this has worked so consistently. And as I said at the start of the video, realizing that physical reminders are like the hack for my brain. I've literally rearranged my whole house, printed out random little things, like little reminders to keep me going during the day, to help me scaffold my daily routines, and it's just been a game changer. So I don't know how more times I can say game changer in this video, but I really mean it. So that's everything for this video. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below.